Welcome to the CouchScouts Podcast. We provide league-winning analysis, advice, and tools to help you dominate your league and build a dynasty. Scout, draft, win. Here's your host, Matt Cooper.
Welcome to the CouchScouts Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Cooper. With me is my co-host, Matt Rupert.
How you doing, my man?
And Matt Jackson.
What's going on, guys?
And on tonight's episode, we are going to be beginning a little mini-series that if you listen to last week's Couch GM episode where Skip and I did a little first-round rookie mock draft, I kind of teased this mini-series, and we're calling this series The Second Look. So over the next few weeks, we're going to be going back and looking at players that we hit earlier in the scouting process. And so, you know, there are some guys, maybe we're just way off consensus with the community. And so that's always going back, worth taking a second look, feel extra confident in your take when you're going against consensus. It may be some cases where the three of us were not aligned, where one person really liked a guy that the other two weren't as high on. It's like, okay, we respect each other enough to go take a second look. In tonight's case, we're actually talking about two guys that for whatever reason, we only have one solo podcast in the history of this show. And it was the week that we covered the two guys we're talking about tonight. So I was on here solo breaking these two guys down. Jackson and Rupert did not get to give their input. And so for them, it's actually a first look at one of the biggest names in the class. And for me, it's a second look. So anyway, yeah, these are guys that just for whatever reason, we thought, hey, it's worth going back and taking another look and talking about it on the podcast and seeing, hey, did our opinions change? Where are we at on these players after taking another deeper dive on them? And the two guys that we're talking about tonight are both wide receivers. We've got Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver out of Ohio State, and Isaiah Bond, wide receiver out of Texas. And, we're going to discuss if our feelings have changed on these players at all. And we're going to start with Emeka Egbuka. So 6 foot, 202 pounds. He ran a 4.5 40-yard dash at the combine. That was intelligence that we did not have the last time we talked about this guy. The combine hadn't happened yet. No testing for the broad jump or the vertical. And production-wise, you know, we talked about this the last time we talked about Egbuka, but it's worth mentioning again. He had a very productive career, 4-year career at Ohio State. He finished as a national champion. He had 2 seasons over 1,000 yards, his sophomore and his senior season. The junior year in between, he dealt with a lot of injury. But, racked up quite the illustrious career at Ohio State. And in his final season, he had 81 receptions for 1,011 yards and 10 touchdowns, and is considered by most, I would say, to be a pretty consensus lock to go in the first round of the NFL draft. So, and if not, definitely I have a hard time seeing him getting out of early round 2. So this is definitely a name that we want to know for our dynasty rosters. I haven't seen a rookie mock draft yet, I don't think, where he didn't go in the first round. So, again, last time we did this, I was doing a solo pod. You guys just took your first look at him this week and gave a film score this week for the rookie guide. And I'm going to let you guys do most of the talking since if they want to hear my thoughts on Egbuka, I'll share a few things that maybe I noticed on the second look or tweaked in my grades, but it's not major changes. So I want to let you guys do most of the talking here. I'll start with you, Rupert. We're not going to go trait by trait like we normally do because, again, I already did that on the podcast a number of weeks ago. They can go back and look up Inside the Prospect and Emeka Egbuka. But what stood out to you about Egbuka? What did you like? What did you not like? Where would you take him in a rookie draft? I'll start with you, Rupert.
I mean, not to bury the lead, I really liked everything about Egbuka. To me, he's a guy that doesn't have any holes in his game. He has solid size, good enough athleticism, and to me, I thought he has just really good technique. Like he just destroys zone coverage. He's really refined in his route running. He's not the most explosive athlete, but he's quick getting in and out of his breaks. He has, 4.5 speed, which to me showed up on tape. Like that kind of checked out. It wasn't really a detriment, not how he wins. He wins more with technique. And to me, I thought his two best traits where I gave him a 9 was on his hands. I saw he tracks the ball really well. He has really strong hands, just reaches out, plucks the ball. Shows a lot of nuance, like where there's a defender on him, he'll just throw up his hands late and snatch the ball. Like he's not reaching his arms out there too quick to where the defender can make a play. To me, he just seems like a savvy vet already, and he's just going to be a plug-and-play guy in my mind. He may not have, quote-unquote, the highest upside as like a, physical freak like a Jamar Chase, for example, but to me, he has that upside of Amon-Ra St. Brown if he goes into the right system, where he can just be like a PPR hog, just destroy zone coverage. He can win against man. He can play in 3 different spots. So I think if he goes to the right system, I can totally see taking him, mid, like 105 kind of range, potentially.
Yeah, so let's talk about the upside thing for a second, because that's been the perception on Emeka Egbuka from the very beginning. Is he's a safe, high floor, low ceiling prospect that that doesn't have much upside. And I kind of said similar things the last time I talked about him on this show without you guys. I kind of compared him to like a Chris Olave type that's like, maybe a perennial wide receiver 2, but a guy that you can plug in and he's going to help you win fantasy championships for a long, long time. But I've kind of changed my tune on him a little bit. For me, I just think we so misequate upside at the wide receiver position with athleticism. And not that Ibuka's a bad athlete, but it's like, man, these guys that are 6'3" and run a 4.3 40 and the size, speed, RAS freaks. And it's like, how many of the top dynasty wide receivers right now actually fit that category? I would argue relatively few of them. And most of them are fantastic route runners. They are target hogs. They're PPR demons. And I don't see any reason why Egbuka couldn't fit in that category. You mentioned Amon-Ra. Matt Harmon made that comp. He said basically the big power slot is in the NFL these days because they can do everything that a normal slot could do in terms of beating zone coverage and twitchy route runner, short underneath, all that kind of stuff, but are also big enough to win the contested catches, play with physicality, run blocking. It's kind of NFL teams love these power slot guys and they just get funneled targets. I think Cooper Kupp is probably the first guy that really popularized that, but it's very in vogue right now in the NFL. And I think Egbuka fits that perfectly. I'll let you talk next, Jackson. First, what are your general observations, strengths and weaknesses for Egbuka? And second, where are you at on the upside debate, and where would you take him in a rookie draft?
Yeah, no, I tend to agree with both of y'all. Honestly, I'm not falling into that category. If he's a high floor, low ceiling type of guy, I think the ceiling's actually pretty high. As Rupert said, he does a lot of things really, really well. Like there doesn't seem to be a real flaw to his game. The thing that jumps out the most about me, and we've kind of hit this a little bit, it's his ball skills, right? Like he has some of the best hands in the class. He extends well to the ball. He sucks the ball in and he just catches everything that's thrown his way, which when you look at that upside factor, yes, he fits into that Cooper Kupp slot perfectly because he's going to be a PPR nightmare. Like this guy just doesn't drop passes. He's nice in the contested catch. He does well with tracking the ball. What I think really where I may disagree a little bit with you guys, I think he doesn't just win underneath. I think he wins deep too. I was a little higher than I think both of y'all on his route running. I gave him an 8.5 for route running. I think this was an area that was a real strength for him. He wasn't the most explosive guy through his breaks. I think he was explosive enough. I think where he really won was knowledge of zone. I thought he was creative downfield. I thought he manipulated space, manipulated defenders really well. I thought he could win not only underneath and shallow, he won really well downfield as well. And then just another area that kind of, stood out to me a little bit. I tended to like his athleticism a little bit more than I think you guys did. I gave him, let me see, an 8 for game speed, an 8 for burst. Like when I watched him, he appeared to me anyway faster than I was going in expecting him to appear. He looked like he ran a 4.5. He looked like he might have run even faster to me. Like he was getting downfield in a hurry. And that was something that I haven't really heard us talking about yet. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think he's a complete player. And like you guys have already said, like the upside to Emeka Egbuka, like is better than a lot of people are giving him credit for. Like we look at Amon-Ra St. Brown, somebody that's a perennial, like top 6 wide receiver. I think that's the path. The upside that we could see Emeka Egbuka if he gets into the right team that just funnels some targets like he's going to earn.
So first of all, Jackson, you're going to have to check your receipts on that one and get on my level, bro, because I've got him at a 9 for route running. So tell me why you hate Emeka Egbuka route running, bro. I also had him at an 8 for speed and 8 for burst. I had him at a 9.5 for quickness. I just thought he changed direction so well. And that might be a little bit aggressive. I don't know. That was one that I considered bumping down on my second watch because 9.5 is super high grade. But yeah, I mean, I've got him. I have the exact same grade on Egbuka as Luther Burden, and I've got him half a point lower than Tet McMillan. So to me, they're in the same tier. I agree with everything that you said about the ceiling is higher than people want to give him credit for. The one thing I will say that as far as the Amon-Ra St. Brown comp that has been thrown out a couple of times, and I see it in a lot of ways, but I think Egbuka is just average after the catch.
I would agree with that.
I don't see him really breaking tackles, making guys miss. Like he gets what's blocked for him, and then the first guy to get to him tackles him pretty much every time. And yeah, I think that's where Amon-Ra is fantastic after the catch. He's getting all these underneath targets, getting peppered, and then he can turn them into big chunk plays. I don't see that in Emeka Egbuka's game quite as much. But overall, I mean, Rupert, you said well-rounded. I don't have a single grade across all of my attributes lower than a 7. So I've got him above NFL average in literally every category. Which is impressive. And the biggest thing I noted on my second look that you mentioned, Jackson, he's got some of the best hands in the class. I don't think I gave him enough credit for that the first time I watched and the last time I talked about him on the podcast. My very first note, and again, this is going back to when I watched him probably over a month ago. My very first note was 2 rough drops versus Michigan State. And that's been so long ago, I don't even remember. But I would guess that maybe that colored my opinion of him for the rest of the tape watch, where I reacted to something that I saw early on. But really, I don't have any other notes about drops except for that initial one. And when I was going back on the rewatch, like you said, his hands stood out so much to me. I mean, he was constantly plucking catches away from his frame, just iron hands in traffic, about to take a big hit, contested. Like for a smaller slot guy that's not out there mossing people, usually if a guy fits that profile, I've got relatively low grades on him for things like catch radius, body control, contested catch. I've got above average grades for all of that. And I actually, on this second watch, I bumped Egbuka's hands grade from a 7 up to an 8.5. So I think I was a little too low on that. And I bumped his contested catch up a little bit as well. In fact, the numbers back that up. I looked this up on PFF. He's got a 60% contested catch rate. And I think it was like a 5% drop rate. So really, really good marks on both of those metrics. And yeah, that was my biggest thing on the second look that bumped his grade up a few points for me. Was I think I underrated his ball skills a little bit. So I had him in that 77-ish range of my film grades. I've got him up now at like a 78.5, which is not a huge change, but again, it does bump him up to where he's basically dead even with Burden and McMillan. And in my overall ranks, I bumped him up too. I think I would take him over Burden. Whereas before today, I had Burden higher in my rankings. I think with all the noise that we're hearing about Burden with character concerns, work ethic, attitude at Missouri, that NFL scouts are worried about it. It may push him out of the first round of the NFL draft. Like, who knows? We'll see. But if I got two guys tied in my grades and one of them has all that noise and the other one is like
Clean as a whistle.
the coach's dream, right? Like championship DNA through and through, lock for first round. Like, I'll let that break the tie for sure. So yeah, I think obviously Burden's more athletic, better after the catch, but I've got Egbuka graded higher in route running by a good bit. I've got him as my highest route running grade in the class, which is super important to me. I've got him with better ball skills than Luther Burden. So yeah, I think right now on the clock, that's a change that I made on the second look is I would take Egbuka as at least my wide receiver 3, if not my wide receiver 2. So I've got, Travis Hunter at 1, and then it's really close for me between Tet and Egbuka. And, to the point where they're in the same tier, a better landing spot. The draft could actually push Egbuka higher than Tet for me, and he could be as high as my wide receiver 2 when all is said and done.
I agree. I bumped him up slightly as well on my second watch. I feel like I graded his athleticism a little too rough. Just had him a little more average there. So I got him at a 78.8 now. And I will also note I got him as my highest graded route runner at 8.5. Got him tied with Travis Hunter. No. So yeah, he's right there. I got Ted at 79. So they're like neck and neck.
What I think is really interesting is the fact that Egbuka is a guy that used to be such a Devi darling, and then he stayed in college for so long. He was overshadowed by, Marvin Harrison, overshadowed by Jeremiah Smith. Like, we forget that he like this is the first time that I went into this tape watch for Egbuka. And I came away like, oh, like this guy is really, really nasty. Like, I've got him right now at a 77.10. He's 0.1 below Tet McMillan. So he's my wide receiver 4 right now, and I could see him being wide receiver 3. You guys know how much I love Luther Burden, so it's hard for me putting him above Luther Burden, but I could see myself in a world putting him above Tet.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, especially like Tet. We mentioned Egbuka has no weaknesses. We all agreed like Tet's release versus press coverage is a weakness that he needs to develop in that could, especially as a guy who's meant to play a big-bodied X receiver role, if you can't beat press coverage, like it could take Tet some time to figure things out at the next level. And Egbuka definitely feels safer to me for sure. I wonder, maybe this is where some of the upside conversations come in with Egbuka. Is you mentioned that he played with Marvin Harrison and Jeremiah Smith and those guys. It's like he was always the number 2 at best on his college team. So I wonder if that's where people are projecting like, oh, he can only ever be a number 2 in the NFL.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily know if that's true, right? Because the same of Olave, who has clearly been the number 1 for the Saints for years. You could say the same of Jackson Smith and Jigba, who now is looking like the number 1 for sure for the Seahawks. So some of these guys, like they
Justin
didn't
Jefferson.
Get a chance to, they didn't get a chance to be an alpha, because Justin Jefferson played with Jamar Chase at LSU. So some of these guys didn't get to be the alpha on their college team. It doesn't mean that they can't be that in the NFL. And, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't have him graded as high as a Malik Neighbors or a Marvin Harrison Jr. But if you put him in an offense where he's the guy and he doesn't have those other guys to compete with, would it shock you if he put up a 1,500, 1,600 yard college season like Neighbors and Harrison did? I don't think it would shock me. I think he would have been perfectly capable of that had he been in a different, obviously I'm glad he went to Ohio State because Brian Hartline knows how to develop receivers and get them pro ready, I think that's a plus for Egbuka in his profile. But, if he'd gone to a more wide receiver needy team, I don't see any reason he couldn't have put up a 1,500-yard collegiate season. So
he would have been wide receiver 1 on any other college roster. It was just Ohio State had a plethora of riches.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, Jeremiah Smith is different, bro. We'll talk about him in a couple of years.
2 years.
Yeah.
Man is a monster.
Yeah. All right. Well, we got one more guy to talk about tonight. So we are going to be discussing Isaiah Bond, wide receiver out of Texas. And, as we've been sitting here talking about Egbuka, for basically all of us, it seems like our grades went up, right? I mean, our grades went up for Egbuka pretty much across.
Yeah, it went up about 1
look.
point.
And I guess for you, Jackson, it was your first look at him.
Yeah,
but
my grade went up 77 points.
Yeah, from a 0. So yeah, now we need to talk about Isaiah Bond because he's somebody that I'll just spoil it. My grade did not go up. I was actually a little bit. I'll let you guys talk first because again, I did the solo pod and you guys haven't had a chance to give thoughts at all on Isaiah Bond. But for me, he's somebody that I'll share more specifics in a minute. But I think I glossed over some of his weaknesses and became enamored with some of his best plays that are like the highs are really high.
Yeah.
And so I think I overlooked some of the lows there. But yeah, I'll start with you this time, Jackson. What did you notice on your second look? And, overall, just, since the people haven't heard from you, what's your opinion of Bond as a prospect, strengths, weaknesses, where you'd take him? Start with you. No,
I mean, second look, right? Isaiah Bond is just as fast and just as athletic as you think, as we said he was the first time. I will note that my grade for Isaiah Bond on things like speed and burst did go down on 1, but that's because I had him in a 10 and I just put him down at a 9. And a lot of that just revolves around the fact, I can't put you at a 10 for game speed if you're not even the fastest guy on your team, according to the NFL combines. I don't know. I felt like I was super enamored with a lot of that, but he's not. When you look at 10 for our speed, that's Tyreek Hill. I don't think he's quite as fast as Tyreek Hill. He's still fast. He's still explosive. Not saying that's a weakness.
Yep.
I will say that, like you said, the weaknesses are very evident. I noted when I went and watched him the first time, I put a 6 for Isaiah Bond's physicality, and I put a 6 for his contested catch. And I went back and watched the second time. And when I look at what a 6 category means, right, we're saying that this receiver is NFL average when it comes to these categories. Isaiah Bond is not NFL average when it comes to contested catch. He's not NFL average when it comes to his physicality. Press coverage, physicality really messes with Isaiah Bond. He can get pushed off of routes pretty easily. He has a hard time hand fighting through contact. And a lot of that is kind of reflected through even my release grade for him. I've got a 7. I've got a 7 for release grade for Isaiah Bond, which isn't bad, right? It's a good grade, but I had it like a 7.5, 8 the first time I watched. He's not fighting through hand contact. He's not using a complete release package. So I knocked that down a little bit. I do think a strength for him, though, is his route running. I felt like just like Emeka Egbuka, I thought he did really well with those quick explosions, using that athleticism through breaks. I thought that he used his quick twitchiness and getting in and out of breaks, sinking his hips really well. So that's an area, but like you said, right, it's Jekyll and Hyde. Like the highs are really high. He's an athlete. He's got great speed. He's got great burst. But like if you put hands on Isaiah Bond, like you can mess up his entire game. And for me, I had to knock that down. So his grade ended up falling a couple points for me because of that.
Rupert?
This was actually my first time grading him. So I had very high expectations after, seeing what y'all had. And then also just watching Matthew Golden and just seeing the guy just explode and fly across the screen on the other side of the field. Again, that just shows up. Like, he's ridiculous. Pretty much gave him, like, I think 9s across the board on the athleticism front. I saw the same thing where the ball skills are very inconsistent in my eyes. I gave him a 6 for hands, just average hands, 5.5 contested catch radius. I thought he had pretty decent ball control. Gave him a 6 body control. Same as y'all, gave him 5 for physicality. And honestly, it's just to be expected for a guy that size. That's just a speed freak. But again, like, to me, he wins with his athleticism. I thought he was a really good route runner. I gave him an 8 for release and route running. So I think his ceiling is very high, and he is very similar to an Xavier Worthy, a guy that can run routes that's smaller, can get dominated physically, but if you don't get your hands on him, then it could be game over.
Yeah, I dropped him a little bit too. I mean, I kind of hinted at that already. Again, I think similar to what you said, Jackson, with the speed, I had him at 10s. It's speed burst, and then I think a 9 for quickness. I dropped it to 9.5, 9, and 8. So again, I just think I got carried away the first time I watched. Like, oh man, he might even be faster than Worthy. I remember saying that on the podcast. And I'm not reacting to his 40 time. I just think when I went back and watched the tape, I was like, man, he can fly, but I don't know about 10. So again, still a really, and particularly the quickness, dropping that to an 8. I think he can change directions pretty well at times, especially for, when he's going full speed as fast as he is, to be able to like snap off and change direction. It's impressive. Like, an 8 is a great score. I just think laterally, like, he's more of a linear north-south guy. He can do the lateral thing, but not to the level of saying a 9. So I kind of cooled on some of those things. And then along with that, similar to what you said, I also I dropped the physicality score. I dropped the contested catch. Similar deal. So those things, when you put them all together, and you drop the speed burst quickness just a hair, and then gave more realistic scores on the physicality and the contested catch, and it dropped him from, he was like a 78 plus for me, up there in the same range with like Egbuka and them, which I knew wasn't right. Like, this was one of the reasons I wanted to take a second look at him, because I was going to do my rookie rankings, and I was looking at my film grades, and I was like, am I really saying that Isaiah Bond is like my wide receiver 3 in this class? Because I don't know if I feel that confident in it. And, the production wasn't there. And the ceiling felt exciting, but the floor is low. So when I regraded him, he dropped from a 78 all the way down to like a 73.5. So it was a pretty big drop in his overall score here. And a 73.5 is not a bad grade at all.
No, that puts you, according to our grade book, in the realm of flex option, which I feel a whole lot more confident saying he's a flex option than he's a high-end fantasy starter.
Right. And I think because he was never a high-end fantasy starter even in college. So yeah, it's just tough to say confidently, like, yeah, he's, when he never earned a high volume of targets in college, never had, a huge production season in college, never was like the alpha number 1 guy on his team. And you could argue that he was for maybe a few weeks at the beginning of the season. And he dealt with some injuries, and, I get all that. But the fact is, like, you're projecting, if you think he's going to come in and be this high-end fantasy starter and be this like Tyreek Hill type of asset on your team, you're projecting something that he never did in college. And even like I've got him at 7 for route running. He's good for, which 7 is good in our grade. Like 6 is average, 7 is good, better than average. I like his route running. There's flashes of the really good stuff, and then there's some not so good. He's not even the route runner that like Xavier Worthy was last year. So normally you see these guys that are super, super fast, and they are not good route runners. I think Bond is better than most of these like speed freaks. But anyway, so I cooled on him a good bit. Not that I'm out on him at all. Like, I think where I look at him in my overall rankings, he's still like a mid-second round pick for me. So I think even after dropping him all these points, I think I'm still maybe going to be above consensus on Isaiah Bond and come away with some shares, but I'm not as bullish on him as I would have been before today.
No, I have him at 7 right now, so 74.63, which is right there on that flex option, kind of the high end of flex option, which I feel comfortable with. Obviously dropped him down several points from where I had him. He dropped down because of some of the guys that we're actually going to end up talking about tonight. That I have him in my round 2 grade right now because some of the guys we're going to talk about that we love, you don't have to spend anywhere near that capital. So subscribe to the site so you know who we're talking about.
Yeah. Speaking of which, we haven't plugged the site at all. We're 30 minutes into the show. I should tell you, we are 1 week away from releasing volume 2 of our rookie guide. So if you're a Scout Potato member, you've already been enjoying volume 1. Hopefully you guys appreciate the time that went into that, and you can see like everything from the user interface and usability to wanting the content to be thorough and have some depth to it, but also be digestible and easy to read. All of that. There was a lot of thought and care that went into making this rookie guide the best possible product that it can be and the best tool for you to dominate your rookie draft. And so volume 2, we're basically taking what we did with volume 1, which was in a kind of a midway point release, and it was about 40 prospects. And now we're going to be almost to 70 prospects. Might break 70. So we went deep. We found the hidden gems. We've told you who to draft. We've told you who not to draft. And we've covered everybody that even might be relevant in your fantasy draft. And if there's anybody that falls through the cracks that we missed, that we didn't do a guide profile on, that, maybe ends up a surprise day 2 pick or something, we will do a profile for volume 3. So volume 3 will be our post-draft. We're going to most of that's just going to be reacting to landing spot, draft capital, that type of thing. But there might be a profile or 2 that we end up adding afterwards if we feel like there's a big name that we missed. Like last year, Tyrone Tracy was one that we didn't cover in the initial rookie guide, but we got in there in the post-draft update and ranked him and all that kind of stuff. So, it's a great resource. You can get all that for $5 a month, or save 15% with an annual subscription. Sign up today at CouchScouts.com. Again, that's CouchScouts.com, and we appreciate you guys considering joining the Couch Scouts family. You guys have any final thoughts here on Egbuka or Isaiah Bond before we log off for the night?
Just both great prospects, right? Like, yes, Isaiah Bond does have some clear weaknesses, but I think the upside, like Rupert says, is there. And like, I'm all in. And like, I don't think I mentioned this, 107, 108 for Emeka Egbuka. Like, I'm all in for that price tag for him. I think he's well worth that. We love obviously both of these guys. I think they're both going to be really quality assets to your team.
Yeah, if you need a wide receiver, take Egbuka. You're not going to regret it. Sure, there, maybe someone behind him, that explodes, but you're not going to come away and regret this pick like 5 years down the line and be like, this guy was a bust. Like, I just don't see any way that happens. Scouting is not a pure, science by any means, but he seems about as safe as you could get as a prospect.
Yeah, so I have him at 8 in my overall rankings right now, but I could totally see taking him as high as 5 again, pending what happens with the draft and everything. Like Ted McMillan is my 5th overall, and I've got him in the same tier. I've got Tyler Warren there, so in a tight end premium, I'd have Tyler Warren ahead of Abuka. But if it's not tight end premium, I'd probably take Abuka over Warren. It's close. Henderson is in that tier as well. So, depending if you need a running back or if you need a wide receiver, I'm fine taking either one of those guys. So, I have Abuka at 8. I could justify taking him definitely as high as 5th in a rookie draft, super flex. So, yeah, definitely a big fan of his game for sure. So, all right. Well, we're going to log off. We're going to go do the bonus show. If you're a member, Scout Potato member, not only do you get the rookie guide, you get these bonus podcasts that we do every week. And we're about to do a wide receiver roundup episode and cover 3 big sleeper names that we haven't hit yet. It'll be our final episode of the Inside the Prospect series that we've been doing since December. And you guys are definitely not going to want to miss hearing us talk about these wide receivers in a minute. So check out our website. Check out our free Discord. No strings attached on that. We just want to get to know the people that listen to the show. So the link will be in the show notes. If you're listening on live on Twitter right now, you can click the link in our bio and find the Discord link there. But definitely come join our community. It's over 200 dynasty degenerates that are in there talking all the time, trades, news, everything. We're giving advice. If you're on the clock and you're like, hey, who should I take? You could post in there and get guys, within minutes responding and giving you their input. So definitely check out the Discord. We appreciate you guys listening, and we will be back next week with another episode of this Second Look series. So definitely tune back in for that, and we will see you guys next week.